Welcome to Talk It Out, the podcast about campus safety where we discuss major events that have happened on the Castleton campus and how they were handled by our public safety, administration, and the student body. I'm Julian.
I'm Carly.
And I'm Madeline.
On this episode, we will discuss individual instances from our forum and how they could have been handled. We will also discuss our personal experiences on campus, how the campus views public safety and their policies.
We're going to read a couple responses from our Google form that we sent out. I was situated with a roommate and a suite mate who were both really violent and had bad anger issues. They bullied one girl out of the suite already and forced her to leave because they didn't like her decisions regarding the men she went out with. I'm talking violent threats, breaking into her room, and screaming full volume. After that girl left, I kept to myself and was mostly quiet because I didn't want to become their next victim. But they later told me I'd make everything awkward and make them uncomfortable by being around. They also had very strong political opinions, and after the election, they would make threats towards people of the other party and post just to get reactions out of people. I forgot I had them on my socials and made a political post to show my support of those who would be affected by the election results and came back to my room to them screaming at me, invading my space, and telling me I needed to leave, so I did, thank God. All right, so on our forum, we also asked if they reported it to public safety and what public safety's response was, which this person did not report it. We also had a category for them to put anything else they wanted to add about Castleton safety, and in this column she wrote, I never reported these incidents despite the violent threats because I know past incidents that were reported were never solved. Public safety feels unreliable and doesn't seem to prioritize our safety here on campus, and I didn't want to make things worse with these girls.
I feel like this kind of brings up like a pretty popular or common thought that a lot of people may have on campus regarding public safety, where they may not trust public safety to take like a reasonable action depending on the incident. Like as this person reported, like they didn't really feel like, they said that public safety feels unreliable and doesn't seem to prioritize their safety. I think they definitely do prioritize their safety in certain aspects. But I do feel like some people don't report their incidents because they feel as if public safety may not have a whole lot to really provide with them and maybe assist in their help. I don't know if you guys maybe feel the same way or heard other similar experiences.
I bet that this girl that sent this into us probably didn't want to report it to public safety because she was worried that if public safety started speaking to the other girls in the suite and her roommate, that, you know, they would figure out that it was her that told them originally, and she probably didn't want to put herself in an unsafe position with these girls and her, you know, her suite mates already being violent. She didn't want, for if public safety came in and, you know, questioned them but didn't really have anything further, she didn't want to be the one targeted in the end, like she had said originally.
Yeah, and from our form, we did, put a category where they could put what grade they were. And this is a freshman, and I think it's really common around freshmen who get stuck in, random rooming. Because it's just, you don't know these people. They could have completely different lifestyles than you, and it just causes a big clash when you have to move in with someone you, have no clue. Sometimes it's, the best thing ever, but, I know there's a statistic out there that around 33% of college students report having problems with their roommate within their first year. So it's pretty common for people to have not the best roommate their freshman year or to feel really uncomfortable, especially when they're put with someone like a complete stranger and they have no way to reach out over the summer or something like that.
I think being in a suite too, coming in as a freshman with a whole suite being random, there's a lot of room for error and there's a lot of room for people to not get along, especially freshmen. And you have so many different personalities coming in that you can't guarantee that everyone will get along. But I think the fact that in this situation people were getting violent is, you know, that's a level of unacceptability, if that's even a word, because how can you be coming into college and acting like that towards other people who are also in the same situation as you? Even if this person who was violent was just unhappy, then why can't it just be a conversation with, you know, their RA and try to move out of the building or talk to, you know, residence life if they were just not interested in being there in the first place?
Yeah, there's just no purpose in starting something, especially getting like so violent and having just like really bad anger issues, like that's terrifying, especially for like a new person on campus who like
First
knows
year.
no one else. Like these are the first people you meet. It would terrify me, I know for a fact. I mean, I know I had a freshman move into my suite, which is full of all juniors, as an emergency room change because her roommates were really like bullying her for like no reason at all, and she's like the nicest person ever. And I remember they came over to our suite because they moved her to the dorm right next to the people who were literally bullying her. Like they didn't move her out of the building. They didn't try to put her with other freshmen. Like they stuck her in a room with 4 juniors and like who very much are all friends already. Luckily, we're not complete bad people and we are very accepting of whoever, but it was just rough because like while she was moving out, like her old suite mates were coming into our room trying to like talk badly about her, and like everyone knows if the person who moves out doesn't talk bad, it's typically caused because of the suite mates.
The other people.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this is also like freshmen, it's their first time being away from home. A lot of people, it's their first time even rooming with other people other than like family members. So, I think it could be tough for people to definitely experience something like that. Just like it's tough to really go into an environment where you're really like independent and on your own, and then having to deal with complete strangers. Like it's a tough battle to kind of face.
And knowing you'll see them like around, that's like the most terrifying part.
Especially on this campus.
And I
Small
could see
campus.
why they didn't want to report it because everyone knows if someone's a little crazy, it can get a lot worse, especially like with YikYak and name dropping, how common that is with especially among freshmen.
Yeah.
I think freshman year is so defining, especially first semester. Like it really like it sets a tone for the rest of college, and I think having bad living experiences, first semester freshman year can just like, that can make someone want to transfer like that semester instead of giving it a second chance with, different suite mates and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It could really ruin like someone's entire college experience just from having like their freshman roommates. Like it's kind of troubling.
So this next response that we got reads, "There's this guy who has literally been stalking me. He follows me around, he's in 3 of my classes, and he won't leave me alone no matter how much I ignore him or be rude to him. He won't leave me alone. Recently, he's been dropping names of people from my hometown and listing places from near my hometown. I have tried to get a no contact order, but PubSafe says it's not possible because we are the same major and focus, and that's unfair to him because if he can't be in classes with me, he won't be able to graduate on time." And then this response was reported to public safety, and their response, the person who wrote this wrote, "Ain't helpful." We had another response come in that was very, very similar to this one, and it says, "Being stalked in my classes and public safety telling me they can't help me." We had another response come in that was very similar to that other one, reading, "Being stalked in my classes and public safety telling me they can't help me." This experience was reported to public safety, and their response was that they couldn't restrict the kid because there's only so many comms classes. I think that getting 2 responses that are very, very, very similar and sound very similar makes me personally uneasy to read, especially because the second response talks about communications classes, and that is all 3 of our majors. I think that knowing that something like this is happening in our department and could be happening in other departments is just unsettling to hear.
Yeah, I mean, from personal experience, it is a bit of a problem right now, and from others who I've talked about who's been kind of experiencing the same thing I'm going through, and like who've also talked to pub safety about this, they really are not taking this one seriously because we all know like in the communications department we get like maybe a list of like 10 classes that we can register for per semester, so it definitely is difficult if like you have issues with a certain someone in class or something like that to be able to avoid them And I mean, I feel like pub safety, most of their responses have always been like, just talk to them and make you kind of direct the issue on your own, which isn't always the safest option for a lot of people because who knows what their behavior is like and like if they truly are like being stalked.
Yeah.
Like that's like it's dangerous. It's just a dangerous situation.
It is dangerous, and I remember this brings me back to like one of my classes that I took where we had looked at the crime stats report for the Castleton community and like the around the campus, and I remember seeing something about how there was stalking accusations on the campus, which is kind of concerning to me, and I believe the stat said, don't totally remember it, but it said something about I believe around 3 per year has happened within the past like recent years, and this is kind of concerning considering it's a reoccurring like situation. I think this is like a very serious problem within this campus. I don't know who these people are. I don't care who these people are, but I just think that like this kind of situation needs to stop on campus. It's very concerning for people's safety on honestly all campuses across the whole world. I think it's very, very dangerous.
And I think with the Castleton crime report, that's just reported instances. That's not even instances that have been going on that people are just tolerating, because I think, especially if, talking specifically about stalking with people who are in the same major, it's hard. How do you really address that? And how do you, especially when with the responses, how they talked about that public safety just said, well, you guys are the same major and you have to take the same classes, so you just kind of have to like deal with it for the remainder of, however long that goes on for. I wish there was an alternative to a situation like that, but is there a different way to approach, could public safety approach it in a separate manner or in a different way, or is there something that isn't, being addressed, or I'm not sure what the word I'm looking for is, but like, is there just a different way to handle a situation like this instead of telling, your students to just, deal with it?
I know in like some circumstances, like pub safety, like maybe if it's violent or if they act on something, they'll definitely get that no contact order. But it just seems like it's kind of a reoccurring thing that people just don't want to report it because people have stated multiple times that they really just think pub safety doesn't really do anything and that they take on mid-work and easy work, something that's like going to be like breezy and like open and closed kind of cases. And I just feel like if this is happening to you, definitely like you got to talk to your professors and you got to make sure like you got to do whatever you can on your own if no one else like who's supposed to be doing this for you is going to do something. That's really stressful knowing like every single day you're probably going to have to see this person who makes you so uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a problem regarding like small campuses. I know it can be pretty tough to kind of deal with that, but definitely reach out to anybody who you trust. Any kind of trusted individual on campus, whether it's a counselor, it's your advisor, teacher, friends, family members. I'd say just reach out to anybody if possible. Try and get help if this is really like impacting you mentally. Like you should definitely reach out, find out anything.
And if it's getting super serious and you really think you're in danger, go to the police.
Mm.
It seems that Castleton PD is what really like does the work in this town. I mean, obviously they're the ones who can enforce the laws, not pub safety, but pub safety should have at least some sort of like superiority over literal crimes that are going on, because stalking is a crime. It's a criminal offense. But if you really think you're in risk, like at risk of something, or you're just fearing for your life, go to the police, report it, and see if they can kind of urge the school to get a no contact order for you.
For our next response, it reads this. I'm on another campus, but I've got a story for y'all. I apologize for grammar. There's this pretty creepy guy on campus. He's a sophomore here, but 90% of girls are scared of him. Just imagine Uncanny Valley with a creepy monotone voice, and that's him. The thing is that there is so much known about him and so many things that have happened, but no one talks about it. Anyways, I don't openly talk about being a part of our on-campus news station, so this was kind of terrifying. Quick little backstory. The day prior, my friend had convinced me that he was okay, and she needed us to bring him somewhere to buy her things. I had just finished our newscast and left the studio. As I walked to the door, I noticed he was sitting on the couch right next to the news hallway. I just left and kind of jogged out to my car. As I'm opening my car door, I look up to see him sprinting at me. Obviously, I'm in full panic mode. I'm actively backing out of my spot when he begins to try to open up my door. I'm yelling at him, and as he swings open the door and proceeds to start shoving around camera equipment, claiming that he left his vape in my car. 1, there was no vape in my car, and he didn't even have it the day prior. 2, in what world is it okay to stalk and chase a girl out to her car? This incident, however, was not reported to public safety or any officials. This kind of brings back that other point, considering that a lot of people may not feel safe reporting this kind of stuff to public safety. I think in this situation, it was a pretty serious situation. This guy's kind of chasing after you and opening up your personal items like your car and just like searching through it. I think this definitely should have been taken to public safety or some kind of higher up officials to get this situated.
I think if I was personally in this situation, I would have probably automatically called the police. I don't even think I would have had a thought to go to public safety about this sort of thing. I don't, I think with situations like this, it's like, well, how many times has this happened before to other girls on that campus?
Yeah, and it just brings a good point. Like, I know this is like a serious thing, like he literally stalked her and chased her out to her car, but how many other times has this happened? Like, this is a public safety issue. This kid is like 90% of the girls on campus are terrified of this person. Mm-hmm. Why has nothing been done? Like, he is obviously not good for the community, not good for campus safety, and I'm pretty sure, I'm sure someone has reported him before, or multiple people have reported him before if he's known for doing really wild things and really scary things. Just why has public safety let him, or why has the school in general let him continue to be a student here and continue to be on campus with other people if people are feeling really threatened?
Yeah, I was also going to say, I mean, we don't know what campus this was. We know it wasn't Castleton, but, how many times has this person's name come across the desk of public safety, at that campus? And to what extent do they, have to take action on an individual who, is just causing problems on a campus? But where is the bar, I think is the question. When does public safety step in about this sort of thing, especially if most of the girls on this specific campus are, afraid of this person?
Yeah, well, who knows how many times he's actually been reported. A lot of his actions may even go unreported. Probably most of them, just like this one, where nobody really truly knows what's going on, that have, any kind of actual say on campus. So, nobody can really, I guess, take any actions on this if nobody really knows exactly what's going on to the full extent that this guy is doing. So I think just reaching out to more people, sharing out the experiences that are going on with this guy. I guess maybe you could even name drop this person to other officials and get the situation taken care of, because it seems like it's a reoccurring event and definitely needs to get taken care of on this campus.
I think something that we've already talked about a couple times reading these responses is unreported events. How many events that go on campus are just, completely unreported and public safety never hears about them, and then it just causes problems for those people on that specific campus. It's interesting to think about, how many times has public safety just, maybe heard about something and disregarded it, and that's why people, begin to stop informing them of things that are happening.
Yeah, it just shows how students really don't feel like public safety are doing anything, because if they really thought public safety was going to help them, do them, support them, they would immediately go there and immediately report it.
Yeah, so they don't trust public safety at all.
Yeah, it's just there's no trust, there's no hope in them. It's just kind of, most people do clarify public safety as glorified door openers. We have seen that on our responses a couple of times, because most of the time they are there to open your dorm or get you into somewhere where if you're locked out. And I think public safety in general, because they like to do, in people's opinions, open and closed cases, it's just they're not going to be taken as seriously because they don't take our issues seriously, so people aren't taking them seriously. This next response says, as a freshman on campus, I lived with my then boyfriend in my dorm. I didn't pay for a parking pass, so I had to park in the far parking lot. At one point, walking back, holding hands, a car slowed down as they passed us and called us the F slur. Then they drove past and turned back around. I was worried they might drive onto the sidewalk, and I was ready to push us both into the ditch on the side. But they just laughed and continued driving. I still get uneasy when I see red sedans around. We also had the F slur written on our whiteboard multiple times starting in the first week. And they didn't report this to public safety, but they did put a thing in the what was their response, and it says, we didn't know who they were, and public safety wasn't going to start an investigation about this the entire time I've been here. They've only cared about things that are open and shut. If they have to look into something for longer than half an hour, they just say there's nothing they can do. And then in the section that is, if there's anything else they want to talk about campus safety, they said, I've personally felt safer around campus throughout my time here. Most of the stories I can tell about me feeling unsafe come from my first and second year, but I know that isn't the case for a lot of people, especially the women and trans folks on campus. I notice a lot of people feel a lot more comfortable and confident making comments that make others feel unwelcome or unsafe, especially anonymously on YikYak. So, as a liberal arts school in rural Vermont, our campus is very divided. I know we're supposed to seem accepting and stuff like that, but our campus is very divided between people who are very accepting of others and people who are not. And it's a very common occurrence for people who are a part of the LGBTQ community to feel threatened and to be harassed and be called slurs, and especially after the election, YikYak was a blow up of just attacking people who are liberal, democratic, LGBTQ plus, people who are immigrants. It was a mess, and it really showed a lot of people's true colors, and it really showed how divided our campus really is, even though a lot of us like to believe that we are on we have a very healthy community on campus, but in reality, it's a college campus. It's going to be very divided. People have a lot of different opinions. People are raised in a lot of different ways. They were taught, all of these things are taught within the homes you were raised in. It's not something that just comes, and we know that.
I think you bring up an interesting point about YikYak because it really shows what people say behind a screen, especially on this college campus, and I think the same goes for a lot of schools, similar to ours that have a lot of different, ideas and a lot of different people that come into it. I think that, what we were seeing in early November after the election, it wasn't what we were seeing previously. We weren't seeing that before at all. So yeah, I just think that the idea of YikYak and the anonymous section of it just doesn't help at all.
Yeah, I think the anonymity about it just gives a lot more people, people may think that they have more to say, they can feel more comfortable with whatever they want to say, because they feel like it's not linked to their name, so they're not going to feel any true backlash, because on YikYak, you don't know who's saying what, you don't know who anybody is, so, people just, they feel like they could say whatever they want on various different levels, and I think this also is a reason why YikYak is banned on a lot of college campuses, because of reasons like this, where people feel that they can say and do whatever they want on YikYak and treat people however they want to say, and it's just unacceptable on YikYak and college campuses in general.
And I think circling back to this response, I think that, they said in their response when they said that they didn't report it to public safety, they said that PubSafe just wouldn't open an investigation about this sort of situation, which I do believe is true because they have no idea who those people were in the car, and they only have a description of a car, which, it's also slightly possible that those people don't even go to our school and they just, they're just, people who like live in town, or, they don't know who those people are, but it's unfortunate that situations like this can't be brought up to public safety.
And it's just sad that this person literally thought they were going to get run down on the sidewalk. That's like how terrified they were. And it just shows that like our community on campus isn't as openly accepting to all the communities. And them talking about how people were writing stuff on their whiteboard in Hoff, and how they, like, their first week, and they stated at this time they were freshmen. Like, this is their first time on campus, living off campus, away from parents, living with their boyfriend probably for the first time, and they're receiving anonymous, like, hate from people they're living around. Like, people in their dorm building were purposely going out of their way to write hateful messages on their whiteboard on their door, and it just kind of shows how our campus, kind of sometimes puts up a little screen trying to lure people to come here by advertising on the fact that we are very accepting, but when a lot of people, when they get here, that's not always the case, and it's just something that really needs to be worked on. And I mean, there's nothing we can really do about YikYak. As someone who has personally been bullied on YikYak, there's literally nothing you can do besides let it all die down. And it really seems like the whole campus is against you, and it makes you fear to go outside. It makes you not want to go to classes, and it's really detrimental to especially a freshman, first time being away from home, brand new, fresh start, and people are just automatically hating on you and making you feel like you shouldn't be here, that you don't belong, that you're unusual, that you're not normal, and stuff like that. It's really detrimental on someone who just came here to get a higher education and to get a degree. And with all this bullying going on, you can't really focus on your schoolwork when you think someone's gonna do something to you behind your back, or you're constantly looking at your phone to see if someone posted something about you.
And I think it's important to note that in this response that we got when we asked about what grade these people were in, this person said that they're a senior. So currently they're a senior, but that means that, they had their most, they had their most unfortunate experiences here at Castleton, their first and second year. So it just shows that these things have a trend, and they just aren't, these kinds of situations just don't seem to be going away, because, we hear about situations, not necessarily to this caliber, but, the fact that communities at Castleton don't feel safe currently, but, this was happening, 4 years ago, to these people.
Yeah, and it just brings a good point that, like, a lot of, when you come into college, you're very optimistic. You're not really thinking about, how some people are bad people and you shouldn't be around them, and how some people are going to lead you in the wrong direction. And we're very vulnerable our first 2 years here, because we're still just getting comfortable. We're still getting to know our people, to find our friends, and especially coming in as a freshman when you don't know anyone. Luckily for this person, they knew their boyfriend, but when you don't know anyone else and you have no support system to really fall back on besides your family, which could be states away, hours away, it can be really detrimental to someone, especially, like, it can make people want to drop out. It can make people feel like they're not worthy enough of college or worthy enough of a life. Like, it can be really, really detrimental.
Yeah, I think everybody should feel safe when they come to get a higher education and not have to worry about situations like getting harassed on campus, and feeling safe all 4 years on campus, and not only feeling safe your last 2 years on campus. I feel like all 4 years you should feel welcomed and accepted on campus, and you shouldn't have to worry about these type of things really realistically at all, but it's obviously gonna happen on campuses. But hopefully, public safety, maybe they did something to increase their safety within the next couple of years. Maybe those people just graduated and moved off the campus that were harassing them. I'm not entirely sure what the whole situation was, but whatever it was that made them feel more safe on campus within their last 2 years, maybe they could share what they did to feel more safe. Maybe it's just being more comfortable with being around that university because they've been there for a while. So maybe there's something on campus that campus safety can do to maybe improve this feeling of comfortability and like safety within the campus.
And like this story is like the exact reason why a lot of people aren't very open about anything, especially when you first meet people. Like it just shows like how a lot of people have to hide their true selves, and that's really, really upsetting.
So this next response reads, when I was assaulted on campus my sophomore year and made a statement with public safety and area coordinator. When I tried asking for help to feel safer going to and from class from this other male student, they told me, quote, "That's not really anything we can do. We aren't always available." This experience was reported to public safety, and their response was that there was nothing they could do and they weren't always available. And then in the section where we ask if there was anything else they wanted to add, this person wrote, "They cover up rape and assault, and majority of the time the victim ends up having to transfer out or feels uncomfortable because they have to coexist with their abuser."
As stated before in our previous episode, sexual assault is a very serious problem within campus. 13% of all students experience rape or sexual assault through physical force, violence, or incapacitation.
I feel like, especially on small college campuses like Castleton, it is a very high risk for people to run into someone who caused them so much pain and so much trauma. And it can really affect someone's studies and just their everyday life, knowing that they can just be casually walking to class and they turn the corner and the person who assaulted you, abused you, is just like staring right back at you. It's pretty traumatic, and for this person to not even receive support from the school helping them walk to and from class and them saying we aren't available to do that is kind of complete BS, because we have peer support groups, we have RAs, like there are so many people who 100% would be jumping at the opportunity to help someone feel safer walking to and from class, and there are so many people who are willing to help others like that, and for the school to not even really try and access this for them is just, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, I think it's unfortunate that they talked to public safety and their area coordinator of their building, and both parties said that, well, there's nothing we can really do to help you. I feel like there has to be an alternative situation, because I feel like that response is like completely unacceptable, and that can't even, like, if it were one of my friends that were in that situation, I'd be like, what do you mean that there's nothing they can do? Like, I don't understand how that's even possible, and I think it's especially on a campus like Castleton, how is there not, a way that we can help people like that who are just like wanting to go about their day without, running into or like being approached by like, the person that abused them. Like, there has to be an alternative situation.
Yeah, and this is such a prevalent problem on all campuses across the world, and just there has to be something that can go on within public safety just so that we could trust them a little bit more. Because like this experience is, like, they reported it to public safety, there's nothing they could do, there's nothing they did, which makes more people just like not want to go to public safety for any other incidents and events that happen to them, because like we've said previously, like they're going to go to them, but they're going to say that they can't do anything, so why would they go to them for other situations again in the future if they're just scared they're going to get the same response again? Like, I think actions need to happen on campus for campus safety to be trusted again, and gone to for like help on campus.
I feel like it's just so common for public safety to push the responsibilities of us taking care of our own safety and making sure our own well-beings are not at risk on ourselves and the students in general, and making people really depend more on their friends, their families, their teachers, which obviously people should because they're great support. But if someone legitimately caused you harm, committed a crime by sexually assaulting you or domestic violence, Public safety should 100% be prioritizing things such like this, not just asking students if they want to make a police report, because as we have like seen from our criminal justice system, not a lot happens when it goes to sexual assault cases, domestic violent cases. A lot of times the perpetrator is set free, and has no repercussions whatsoever. And I feel like a lot of what pub safety does is immediately be like, do you want to involve the cops? But going through and having to relive and go through a trial on something that was so traumatic and happened to you is just, it's a lot for a young adult, and especially if they're a freshman or a sophomore, where they're still just kind of figuring out who they are as a person. It's just something that needs to be prioritized way more and taken a lot more seriously, especially by our campus safety.
For our next response, this one reads, last year I was walking to Hoff Hall from the observatory parking lot, and as I was walking by Alice, I heard a very loud female scream, a loud noise, like someone's car slamming, and then saw a man run away towards Main Street with a backpack. This incident was reported to public safety, and their response goes, I didn't hear or see anything. No one else said anything. Are you sure this actually happened? So this kind of makes me think back to an experience I had kind of similar to this, but not exactly the same. I felt like I was walking the Spartan Trail behind the Capstone campus, and I had heard like a female scream, and I could have sworn I heard like a car door slam, and then like tires screech off the parking lot, like out of the parking lot. And I'm in the woods, like in the trail, so I started freaking out. I actually never reported this to public safety. I'm not quite sure why I didn't. I think I was just like, I was unsure if I really was hearing this right. I asked people in my suite and like all of my friends if they had heard something like this, and they didn't hear the similar things that I was hearing. But I was like keeping up with like news articles and see if there was like any like missing people around the Calhoun campus, and I didn't hear anything about it. So nothing exactly came up from it. But this, yeah, just makes me think back to that situation.
The response from public safety is really interesting, of them saying like no one said anything else about this and not really trying to investigate. Like that's like a really weird situation, like just to hear like a loud female scream and then a loud noise follow after that, and then just see someone who you think is suspicious like running to Main Street.
Yeah.
Especially since like our campus is very open to the public. People walk on our trails all the time, and a lot of people have had experiences, especially walking to and from off-campus housing, of people like following them, just feeling uneasy, or just, you know, hearing things and thinking you might be going crazy, but also like it is a very like common thing. Like I've definitely heard like a girl scream here and there, like from my years here, and been a little concerned, but it's also a college campus, and we do have balconies in some of our dorm buildings, and some people just like to get a little rowdy.
I think it makes me think about like how many instances have like people heard noises like that, like a car, you know, driving off really fast, or people screaming. You know, how many times had that happened, or how many times is it really a problem, but because not that many people hear about it, they just don't necessarily think to report it to public safety because they just don't think it's a problem. But I think with this instance, the fact that this person did go to public safety, I think I also agree that the response from public safety is interesting because, you know, why can't they just take one individual's experience and do something with it instead of just being like, well, we didn't hear anything else about it.
Yeah, it's just so weird because like not everyone's going to like, that's something like not everyone's gonna hear, especially like if you're in your dorm room, windows closed. Like they should have taken that a little more seriously, because if a student was concerned enough that they believed they should have reported it, I feel like public safety should have had the response of being like, oh, this is really odd, this is really weird. We'll definitely look into it. Maybe have an officer, you know, drive around campus, just checking it out, seeing if anyone looks suspicious, or like maybe talking to RAs and seeing if like something came from a dorm room or like if they've heard any noises and stuff like that.
Yeah, it almost sounded like public safety's response made them almost question the person's sanity. It almost sounded like, are you sure this actually happened? Like, I think public safety should have done some kind of investigation, something at least, and not just like question like, oh, I didn't hear or see anything. Are you sure this happened? That's something that I feel like is more serious that they should be investigating, considering they saw somebody running towards Main Street with a backpack on. That could be a possible suspicious person. Like, I think the way that they handled this situation could have been handled differently and in a way better mannered way.
Yeah, like I've seen public safety show up to a party house because they got a phone call from a parent who said that like they were concerned, but they wouldn't go
They can't
out
follow
and
a
like
lead on
they
suspicious
can't.
noise.
Yeah, that's like really crazy. Or like I've seen public safety do very very like weird basic things that they aren't like necessarily important, like ticketing cars. All they do is ticket cars. And that's like everyone's number one complaint is ticketing cars. Like that's their main focus. I don't think they actually write any paperwork besides when they're ticketing cars.
Yeah, I think they put a lot of focus in that, where I think they could be focusing on maybe some more bigger problems on campus and making people feel more safe rather than just having people's cars get ticketed because they're parking in the wrong parking lot and they don't have a parking pass. I think obviously that is a problem with the campus. Like obviously they control who parks on campus or whatever, but like they have other like bigger concerns on campus that can definitely be handled other than just out here stalking over cars and watching over everybody and just making sure everybody has a parking pass. There's other concerns on campus that are way bigger concerns.
This next response reads, watching people rob cars on campus in parking lots with no cameras. This experience was reported to PubSafe, and their response was, we will send someone from public safety to check it out, but there are no cameras in that parking lot. And then in the section where we asked if there was anything they wanted to add, they said public safety could do a lot better, but they chose to do mid work.
I feel like robbing of other people's cars have been a really big topic on YikYak and among students in general because it's something that happens very often, especially with people knowing that observatory doesn't have any cameras and that's like the main parking lot most people park in besides Hoff Hall, which I'm not sure if they have cameras, but I'm pretty sure they don't. The only one that has been stated that they have cameras is South House, which is the newer lot. And it's something that is very common, especially with off-campus housing as well.
Yeah, I think that to increase safety with, everyone's cars in the parking lots, I just think that there should be cameras in all the parking lots. Like, I don't understand why there isn't and we hear things when people, like, when their cars get, like, backed into or their cars get hit in the parking lot or something, like, similar to that, they go to public safety and they say, oh, well, this took place within the last week since I last moved my car or whatever, say it's an on-campus person, and public safety just says, well, there's no cameras in that parking lot, so we can't really do anything to help you. It almost doesn't make any sense. Just, you do have quite a few students on this campus who drive. Most evenings, observatory is almost completely full, and that includes all of the residential lots also being completely full. So if you have quite a few cars parked overnight on campus or even just during the day on campus with commuters, why does not, like, how come every lot doesn't have at least one camera, if not multiple?
Yeah, and that parking lot observatory is probably the most common parking lot that most people use. Like besides Hoff Lot, once that one fills up, I think observatory is the closest one for overnight parking, and that one fills up quite quick too. So I feel like since it's been the main parking lot for so long, I don't understand how there really aren't any cameras or anything around there. And it also kind of makes me think of like the dorms as well. Like I know that most dorms have like a camera at the front door, but like besides that, no like other security measures besides like IDs at the door are really taking place. Like I know there was just an incident in Hoff this past break about a mirror being broken in one of the floors of Hoff. Like I feel like there should be in the main hallways of dorm buildings, I think there should be more security measures and cameras, just like surveilling like campus in general, like all over.
Yeah, my one advice would be make sure your car is locked. If you can get a dash camera that runs like all the time. I feel like a lot of these break-ins come in with like people who obviously are leaving their cars unlocked, and with off-campus housing, there's nothing pub safety can do for you, but obviously go to the police, report it. I mean, pub safety should have called the police when the student reported the fact that they saw someone robbing people's cars. I don't know why they were like, we'll go investigate. I mean, it's good that they went to go investigate, but I feel like they also should have called the police as well because that is a crime. I feel like a lot of things that are criminal offenses are they try to handle on their own to help prevent having the police come, but sometimes they just need to pick up the phone and dial 911.
It kind of makes me worry, like, why aren't they involving the police in more situations? Like, what are they trying to hide, possibly? What are they not telling the public that they're kind of brushing underneath the rug?
This next response, it says, when that guy was hanging around the sports teams, and it also states a 35-year-old keeps trying to hang out with me. And this experience was reported to public safety. The response was that they booted the car of the guy who was hanging around the sports teams, nothing related to the 35-year-old. And when they put a response for anything else to add about safety, and they said campus safety is ass, honestly. There was also another response that said a registered sex offender went to my practice all creepy and shit. Called pub safety, they took too long to come, and the man remained on campus for over an hour, bothering other athletes. I believe this is about the same person. It seems because their also response when they said they reported it to pub safety that they came over, they booted the car. But there was only one officer working, so there wasn't much that they could do. But from what I've heard about this situation from the athletes that were bothered by this man, this was like the third time he had been on campus this semester and his third time getting kicked off campus, which is kind of baffling. So I know that my roommate had to deal with this situation. She's on the rugby team, and this man came over pretending that he knew nothing about rugby and then started asking if they had a hooker, which is a rugby term for a certain position that isn't very commonly known, and that's how they figured this guy was kind of being weird and watching them. And when they figured out that he indeed was a registered sex offender, it was a lot more alarming because we do early college here. So we do have students who are not of age and they are under the age of 18 who do stay on campus but also commute to campus and are constantly on campus. And this is just a major concern because we also do host a lot of like children's birthday parties at our pool, and like we have elementary schools come here for our plays. And for someone who has committed a crime and has been put on the registered sex offenders list, to be able to come back on campus multiple times and bother the athletes during practices, especially closed practices, is kind of ridiculous. And I kind of feel with the pub safety officer because there was only one working, which also brings up another concern on how was there only one officer working.
I think one thing we talked about when we were beginning this project and as we were like creating the form and trying to get an overall understanding about how people were feeling about safety, one thing that we asked people was, well, do you think that public safety should have more officers? And everybody that we asked said yes. So I think that that's something that potentially public safety needs to look into is, do they need more officers? I think that they probably thought that that was going to be a slow day or, someone might have called out or whatever, but then how do you have the accountability to bring somebody else in for the day? Especially if you have like somebody on campus who really shouldn't be on campus.
Yeah, I feel like they should at all times have more than one safety officer on campus. I mean, I know this is a small campus and, it's not a very big town, but, there's a couple thousand students here. Like there's only one officer working on campus. And I know not all students live on campus, but there's a lot of situations that they may have to deal with on campus. And for one person, that can be a lot. And to just have all of your hands, just to have one person control everything, I think that can be another safety concern. Because what if something serious did happen, and there was only one officer? I mean, they can get the police involved, but if they're trying to handle it within the campus and only throughout their campus safety, like only having one officer can be a very major safety concern on campus. Like only having one officer that can go out and report to phone calls. It's kind of nerve-wracking being on this campus knowing that there's only so limited amount of workers who are available at your service. I mean, they're supposed to be 24/7, so having one officer on duty for whoever knows how long, that can be nerve-wracking. It's scary.
Yeah, and it also brings up another concern on funding wise, because we pay a lot of money to be here, and I feel like our school should be, instead of what they're doing with our money currently, they should be focusing on our safety measures, and especially coming from our climate surveys and stuff like that. They should be taking what the results are from that and really trying to improve public safety, because it has been shown throughout the campuses that a lot of people don't take public safety seriously, and the lack of officers is a major concern. I mean, yesterday we did have a new officer come and help us get into the podcast room, but it was actually kind of silly because it was her second day working and
She was not getting trained at all.
there was no one else with her. And I found that really weird, because if it's your second day ever on the job, you're normally still shadowing someone. You're normally still in training. I don't know if there's a whole process before you get to actually start doing stuff on campus that they did with this officer, but from what I've seen when they train other officers, there's normally 2 of them if they're brand new, and especially if it's their second day working, which brings just a whole nother concern, because what if it was one of these new officers who have no idea really what they're doing, working this day and having to deal with this situation, especially since we don't know if he's a high-risk criminal or something like that, or what his intentions of watching athletes. It's just a whole creepy situation. And the fact that he was on campus multiple times before this and has been removed from campus multiple times is really disturbing, because I know for a fact public safety has the power to enforce a ban on someone if they are a safety concern, especially if they aren't a student here. So the fact that this man has been here 3 times, kicked off 3 times, and there still hasn't been a ban in place or something to prevent him from coming back is really ridiculous. We hope that our episodes helped you find more clarity within the campus safety that has been going on Castleton campus, and the current of major events that we've been dealing with on Castleton campus, and hearing other experiences from fellow students who have felt really unsafe and had really uncomfortable situations. We hope that you guys can take something from this, and hopefully some change will be done within our safety procedures and policies, and hopefully we get more pub safety officers and just more security around our safety policies, and students feeling a lot more better and comfortable going to public safety and reporting. Thank you for tuning in to our second episode of Talk It Out. My name is Carly.
I'm Madeline.
I'm Julian.